Okay, in this lesson we're going to cover kind of the basic essential defenses from punching. Okay, we already talked about one of them in the very first video on the lead punch, and that was just kind of evading back. Okay, we're going to put a little nuance into this because in the manuals back then they didn't show a lot of head movement, it seems like, and they didn't have kind of these small steps to adjust angle, at least in the description. And yet some of the better manuals, when you see the pictures, I get the sense in the pictures that they're taking a bit of an angle, that they're doing some of these more subtle things that was just hard to describe in the text possibly. All right, so just to review, because our first fundamental defense, the way to look at this is the punch is coming at me, I can evade back and just not contact it, or maybe do a catch in the palm, or I can evade this way and direct the punch that way, or I can evade this way and direct the punch that way, right? I don't want to move my head the same direction as the punch necessarily because I'm trying to get my head offline. Another basic principle here is that when we can, we try to block with our rear hand, because if I block with my rear hand, it leaves this one chambered and just right there ready to return, number one. Or if I can time it right, I can block and punch at the same time, which is also very Wing Chun-like. So that's why I block with my lead hand, then it's a further distance for this hand to punch, and it's much more difficult to do both at once because you kind of end up, you can tell, in this kind of twisted, extended position. So that's why when we can, we favor blocking with the rear hand, so the lead hand is there ready to fire. Okay? So again, the first defense was just a pull. The guy's punching at me, and so I shift my body back, barring the mark, I'm covering, and my hand is here just to cover my face. Maybe I catch it, maybe I don't, maybe I misjudge and I have to pat it this way or that way. That hand's just there. But the main defense here is by getting just out of reach. I don't want to go way back because then I have no follow-up, right? I want to be here and get just out of reach so then I can spring back and hit him as his hand retracts. Okay, so again, that drill we did was back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, pop, pop. If I'm lined up here, guy's punching at me, I get just out of reach, and I hit him. Just out of reach, and I hit him. Just out of reach, and I hit him. Boop, pop. Boop, pop. Okay, so we already did that one. The second one is, this time I want to block with my rear hand, right? Forearm parry. See this all the time. And it's the same motion, right? It's the same motion, but now my hand goes out and it's kind of up and forward on this 45-degree line. So if his punch is coming right at my face, right? My hand is down here. Imagine this is coming right at me, and I'm reaching up and I'm catching it and I'm taking it up and out on that 45-degree line. So what he does is he ends up like this, right? So as it comes in, now my head is slipping this way, my hand is going out. So he's punching right at my nose, and I catch it and I deflect my head. That's the basic block. I'm here, I block, I block. And it's not just this, like a karate block, it's got some forward impetus to it. So again, if you know anything about Wing Chun, that's a Wing Chun Busao, essentially, if my hand is open. And in one of the texts by Frank Parker, he actually says to open the hand because he's talking about self-defense and not ring sport with gloves on. He does the block this way. And he even says to roll forward so it kind of slides on your forearm. He's describing a Wing Chun Busao, but that's beside the point. It's just here, here. Either the hand open or closed, it doesn't matter. And this one's still covering my ribs, my abdomen. And my head's going this way. And see, it's coming from here, not from here, because again, it's a punch coming straight at my nose. It's a midline punch. So I'm getting my head off that line, and I'm catching the line as my hand comes up. Okay? Boom. And then I'm going to retaliate. So it's going to be, again, I'm kind of leaning my head and body back into the side as I punch, and then I'm gonna boom, come back right with my own punch. So now it's block, punch, block, punch, block, punch. So I'm here, he's punching right at me, block, punch. So now my punch, since I moved my head, is kind of coming like this instead of straight on, but it's still the same punch. Boom. Blocking, I'm punching. And like I said, when I get better, this is kind of down the road, but the timing is better. I can actually, his punch is coming, I can intercept it and block and punch. So instead of a 1, 2, it's more like a one hand, right? I'm blocking, I'm not withdrawing, I'm just blocking and punching. For now, you've got to punch it, got to practice the basic way. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? Now, the subtle thing I talked about before was the ability to take just a little bit of a step with that to really get my head and upper body off the line, right? So notice my lead foot is moving that way, just a bit as I do this. And so that feels natural to me because it feels awkward to be leaning this way, right? My foot just kind of naturally wants to follow my body. And so it's just instinctive. My foot moves to help get my upper body off the line, okay? Now I might not have time for that. I might simply have time to go, oh shit, which is why you also practice it stationary. You know, kind of, oh shit, deflect. But if I can kind of see it coming, I know I got time, I want to take a step. Because now that puts me at a little different angle. And so, two things. Again, we're getting a little more subtle stuff, but if I've stepped with the lead foot, I can plant that lead foot and pivot on my rear foot, boom, and really hit from that angle. So it's like this, right? I've blocked, I'm over here, and I see my angle. And that twisting motion gives me even more power in my punch, and it gets me off the line. So I'm here stationary, and here's with my little step. Now I can also step back to the line. I can here, and then I can step in with my falling step. If I don't want to change the angle, right? So I've stepped out, and then as I punch, I just surge forward, and I'm back on the straight line again, right? Okay, so you can play with both ways, well, 3 ways. Stationary, step out, pivot on the lead foot, step out, step back in with the falling step. Okay? And that's when I want to deflect the punch that way. Move my head this way. Well, what if I want to deflect the punch that way and move my head this way? Right? And think about that. If we are in a mismatched stance, my right side forward and his left side is forward, he does a lead punch straight at my nose, then it makes sense. If I go this way, I'm on his outside, right? His left arm is past me now, and I've got him wide open. And I could punch to his head, or I could step in and punch to his body. If his right hand is forward, we're in a true guard or a match stance. He's punching with his right hand, my right hand is forward, and I do this, I'm still in danger of getting hit with his left hand. So there's times when you want to go one way or the other, depending on are we in a true guard or a false guard. So that's why we practice both sides. You've got to get used to being able to pick which direction do I want to go, right? So now we're going to go that way. So in this case, this comes back, right? And this is the palm parry. So my head's moving this way. Again, it's this rear hand. So now it's coming out here my head's moving this way, and I've got to catch the center, and I just deflect it past and towards my shoulder. So it's a palm parry. We did a forearm parry this way, still a rear hand, but doing a palm parry this way. And see, this hand's still barring the mark. And of course, if you know anything about Wing Chun, this is essentially a pak sao, a palm parry. Or modern boxing terms, they'll sometimes call it a cuff. A cuff, you know, I can catch the punch, I can cuff the punch. So this is it. My head's moving this way, boom, boom. This one's covering me, boom, boom. And again, I'd come back with a punch, boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, pow. Here, he's punching straight at me, so I move my head this way, make sure his hand goes offline. So essentially I let the punch come over my shoulder, and then as his hand is withdrawing, right? And this one to do simultaneous, I can't punch and hit on the same line. We haven't covered the body shot yet, but we will. But just as a preview, now if I want to do the simultaneous block and hit like I did before, it would be like this. I'd be moving my head, I'd be doing the palm parry, and I'd be surging in to hit low. Right there. It'd be like this. But we'll cover that later. For now, just think of parry, hit. Parry, hit. Now this one, if we want to put that little subtle footwork to it, if my body's leaning this way, my foot tends to want to step. So now, where before I was leaning this way, is my lead foot. Now if I'm leaning this way, it's my rear foot. And you can feel that. I start to lean, I just want to catch my balance a little bit. So now as I'm leaning this way and parrying, I step. Right? So it's here. It's here. Boom. Boom. And I can step a little bit, or I can step further, but there's just a little bit of a step. So now, again, like before, I've made an angle. So once I've stepped, I can punch off of that. Right? Step, punch. And now I'm not coming straight at him anymore. I'm kind of taking an angle. So I've stepped out, little punch. Little step, little punch. And see how if I do this way, I'm on this side of my leg, my dummy leg. If I do it this way, even with just a little bit of a step, I'm on that side, right? And that might be a factor. If I want to get on the outside of his leg, I'm going to hit him and then I'm there to sweep or do something else. But again, so there's reasons, subtle reasons for doing these different variations. And again, it's just palm parry with a little step. And now I push off and I come in at a new angle with a straight punch. Right? And from this side, it's just a little step, punch. Step, punch. Step, punch. Boom, boom. Okay? So that's your 3 essential basics. And these are for a lot of things. Like he could even be doing a kind of a swinging blow with his left. If I'm faced off here, a swinging blow coming at my head, I'm still going to block this way, right? Still going to do a forearm parry. So if I'm standing here and instead of doing a lead straight punch, he drops and he's doing a rear straight punch, I could still do my palm parry, right? Now, I can do this too, although this is more of a setup for a kick, so this is really kind of the 4th one. If I can do a palm parry going this direction, technically I could do a palm parry going this direction. But notice this kind of violates one of our rules we wanted, where I block with my rear hand so I can punch with my lead, not block with my lead hand, right? But I can block, but now you have to have been doing this long enough and good enough that it's easy to just switch and hit this way, right? So I can be here, I can block with this step, and then a step in with my punch. But notice that's a bigger motion, it's going to take a little more time, so that's why I don't consider it essential fundamental, but realize that that's there. But I like it better as a setup for a kick, because it's faster, where I've palm parried, I stepped out here, and then I just, pow, the fuete. And that's quick. Boom! Right? Parry as I step, and that loads me for my fuete. And then I use my little hand momentum. Okay? But that'll come in the future. for now, for these basic defenses, there's straight back with the catch or just using distance, evasion. There's moving my lead foot or just my head, parrying out, or with the lead foot, and then retaliating. Or if I want to go the other direction, there's moving my head this way with the palm parry and retaliating, or with the step and retaliating. So back, forearm parry, palm parry. And again, we do 2-man drills back and forth for each of those to kind of get good at them and learn the distance. But that's your essential defenses to work on.